Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Jurassic World Rebirth release. As you can see, we have another of these Takara Tomy figures. This is the Mosasaurus, and it does look pretty cool. Again, definitely looking like the Rebirth Mosasaurus, which is a plus because some companies have been releasing Mosasaurus figures that just look like the older Jurassic World version and not the new updated version from Rebirth. You can see the packaging looks pretty decent. Up here on the top, you've got another sneak peek of the card. Here on the side, kind of a shot of the Mosasaurus and the fact that we're going to have some pretty ugly articulation in the tail. Another shot over here that does show off the Mosasaurus, and then of course that same shot on the side that was on all of the boxes. So let's pop this open and check it out. So here is the card for the Mosasaurus. You can again see a nice image there. I'm really loving the fact that they are including cards in these new releases. I hope they continue to do that moving forward. And then of course the same back that was on all of them. And then we've got ourselves the Mosasaurus itself, and I'm actually going to readjust the camera here just to make it easier to get that closer look. But one thing again that I'm impressed with is the size. These new Takara Tomy figures have been quite large overall, and I get that's kind of the gimmick of the Rebirth film, but it's been pretty impressive. Another thing I will say about this figure is, although it doesn't look perfect here in the head sculpt, it does look, again, like the Rebirth version quite nicely overall, and does have some pretty decent proportions to it compared to some of the other Mosasaurus that are out for it. One thing that is a little upsetting, I would say, for the figure though, is when you close the mouth, you do still see the teeth, and on the actual Mosasaurus in the film, when it closes its mouth, you no longer see the teeth, and that's how all the Mattel figures have been, but this one, not so much. The sculpt of the head, though, does resemble the Mosasaurus, I think, pretty decently. We have some okay texturing, but maybe slightly muted here in the face. You have a green for the upper body, a nice bright white for the lower jaw that moves into the underside of the Mosasaurus. We can see the teeth. The teeth are rounded, but they don't look horrible compared to some of the teeth on, like the Spino and stuff where they looked really bad. The teeth do look a little better on this one, but not great. We unfortunately don't really have the teeth on the inside of the mouth, but it kind of looks like they were sculpted in there. You can sort of make them out. There's just no paintwork for them, and you can't really see them on the other side. I think that just kind of shows you that the sculpts of these originally were actually really well done, but somehow in the creation of the figures, the detail has become significantly more muted, and because of that, you can't really see that extra row of teeth up there on the inside of the mouth. But the teeth, even though they are rounded and kind of ugly looking, do look a little bit better, at least as far as the paintwork goes, compared to some of the other figures in the line. Also, we have a nice pinkish tone for the inside of the mouth, which I did not mention. As you move up, you can see a really nice light green eye with a black pupil that does look very good. The entire figure has a little bit of a satin shine, which helps to give it that wet look. As you move along the back, you have that dark gray that kind of patterns all over the place up here on the back of the figure. You also have that really bumpy, kind of almost like osteoderm-like appearance to the back of the skin texture here moving down along the Mosasaurus. There is also a very slight curve to the body, ever so slight, which I do like as well. As you lead down into the side, you can see again the detail is present. It's just not as impressive as it could be. And again, on the original sculpt of this, before it became an actual action figure, I feel like it probably looked incredible. You can see all sorts of wrinkling and creasing as you lead down into the flipper, all the way from the neck down into the flipper, all sorts of kind of creases and stuff. We have very nice looking detail actually down here in the flipper itself, which is a plus. As you lead up, you can see again the green continues on, but there's a smooth transition to the white of the underside, and then the figure just fell because of the tail articulation. I let it go for just a second. There is a weird seam here on the underside where there's like a big rectangle moving along the underbelly of the figure, which makes no sense whatsoever, but it's here. I don't understand why. However, again, it is a bit of an eyesore, but you can see the detail on the underside does look really good, and because we have that nice bright white, I think it really gives you a good appreciation for how good the detail actually is in some areas of the Mosasaurus. Moving up into the stomach, again, the detail continues to look pretty decent. The patterning looks okay as we lead along. leading down here into the rear flipper. You can, of course, see the detail looks all right back here. Some creasing in the skin as you lead down. The patterning does actually stop as we lead out into the tail, and then we only have the light tone of the underside and the primary green of the body of the Mosasaurus. As you lead out into the tail, you'll also see that those bumpy kind of osteoderms also cease as you lead out into the tail fin. The detail looks okay. Again, fairly smooth transition to the light tone of the underside, and there is also a fairly kind of natural, when you have the pieces in the right spots, kind of a nice natural curve to the tail as you lead out, which does look good, adds a nice kind of swimming pose to the Mosasaurus. You can really see it from back here. But then again, when you look at it from the opposing side, it's going to look pretty much the same. No real massive difference from one side to the other for this one when it comes to the sculpt again. It is, although it does have a little curve to the body, it is for the most part just kind of swimming straight forward. But the articulation is only in the jaw, which we already saw, and then the tail. And once you articulate the tail, it's just like the Spinosaurus. It looks super awkward. You can get some really sharp curves and turns for it if you really want, but it looks about as awkward as it could possibly get for tail articulation. So, again, I would say not the greatest articulation. The only good part about it is once you actually do have the pieces back to where they go, the seams aren't as obvious here. I mean, they're very obvious, but they don't look as ugly as the ball joints do on some of the other figures because there isn't like a massive gap between the body parts. But as far as the size goes, again, size-wise, it's quite nicely done. You're looking at about, I'd say 9 inches or around 23 centimeters in length. You're not going to get much in the way of a height. So for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Takara Tomy Mosasaurus. And you can very clearly see it is fairly decent sized for a Takara Tomy release. However, as far as Jurassic World Mosasaurus figures go, it is also quite small in the grand scheme of things, but that's again just how the Takara Tomy figures are overall. And for a comparison with a few other Takara Tomy releases to kind of show you that, the first and probably most significant comparison I could give you is with another version of the Takara Tomy Mosasaurus, again a Jurassic World version but the older style. It is so much bigger now with the Rebirth version than it was with the older version of the Mosasaurus, so definitely a very impressive comparison here with these two. But moving along with some of the other comparisons we had done a few times as far as the different comparison pieces, we have the JP3 Ceratosaurus. We've also got the Allosaurus, again a bit smaller than our Mosasaurus. The JP3 style Spino that doesn't like standing anymore, that is kind of, clawing at the face of our Mosasaurus, I guess. We've also got a nice meal for the Mosasaurus with the Dominion-style Parasaurolophus. And then bringing in some more Rebirth figures, we have the T-Rex, which you can see is definitely closer in size to the Mosasaurus, but still smaller. The Quetzalcoatlus, which is also quite large and uncomfortably close to the Mosasaurus right now, but you can see again, these two are fairly large figures in the line. There is also the Mosasaurus's best friend, the Spinosaurus, which you can see is a little bit smaller. And then one final comparison with the Titanosaurus from Takara Tomy as well, which clearly is the reigning master and champion of the size of these figures, as it is much larger than the Mosasaurus. So this brand new Takara Tomy Jurassic World Rebirth Mosasaurus is a pretty cool figure, but it's not an amazing figure. Specifically, the articulation looks awkward in the tail, as it has on a few figures, and the fact that the jaw doesn't close with the teeth kind of hidden like it should is a little bit of a bummer for the figure. You combine that with the fact that the detail again is fairly muted in some places, like specifically the head, and I think that's been a common reoccurring trend the entire way through with these figures is kind of muted detail in the head. And again, it does have a few issues, but when you take a step back and just kind of take a nice wide shot of the Mosasaurus, I think it does look really cool and very much so like the Rebirth version. It also has really quite nice proportions, nice long tail. It's got some okay paintwork to it, nothing that you're going to go crazy over, but it's decent for what it is. Fairly smooth transitions, nice natural looking patterning moving along, fairly decent tone of green and a nice bright underbelly, kind of what you see from most aquatic creatures when it comes to a lighter tone for the underbelly, a little bit of a darker tone for the upper side. You see that quite often, especially when it comes to predators like this. So again, the paintwork is decent for what it is, and the teeth, although not really great looking, are painted nicer than a lot of the others have been, which is also a plus. So if you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to the eBay seller, again, who is based in the United States. I do believe I had seen a few others on there for people people that aren't in the United States, but if you are in the US, I highly recommend this seller because, again, it's right here. You don't have to wait forever for them to arrive, and they do ship very quickly, so that's a massive plus for them. So check that link. Definitely pick this up if you want it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.